Alright, so here we are back in the shop with the Zephyr here. So again, really not a whole lot going on. Just finished up the exhaust system, which was quite a struggle because fitting the 4-inch through here once it's all welded together and everything, it's difficult to get it between the car and the engine, transmission and everything like that. So what I did is down here, right below here, I made a slip fit. So it has I took a piece of 4-inch and cut a slot in it and then closed it together and kept cutting it until I got the right OD of it to fit in the ID of a 4-inch. And then I took another piece that had the ID was big enough to fit around the OD of the 4-inch pipe. So this down pipe has a slip fit on it, and then the other pipe, I guess down pipe back, slips into it, so you have the inner surface and the outer surface. And it's kind of like what they use in the crossover in lieu of the flex connectors, because the flex connectors have been known to come apart and restrict exhaust flow and everything. So I didn't have enough space. If you can see, it's obviously pretty tight here to put a V-band, because I wanted, you need the exhaust to be able to come apart in pieces so you can get to stuff. So I wanted this to be able to come apart so I can get to the spark plugs, even though it is easier to get to them from the bottom. But I like it to be removable in case I need to get to something. So we merged the dump into here, got all that fitted, and then so it's 4-inch down. It comes under to about where the trans cross member is, and then it reduces to 3.5, and then it's 3.5 to the that muffler I had bought. It's a Flowmaster FX, which I don't really like them, but they're the most economical. And then so we come out to a 3.5 here, and that's kind of the style of exit I like. I didn't want to do a dump on it because they're kind of annoying and they're loud, and I like the aesthetics of it coming out back here. It kind of gives it the muscle car look, you think of like the old Novas and Chevelles and stuff like that. So I'm not real sure on the length of it, but if you look under it, I think it looks really good. I like how it just comes and dumps out at an angle like that. But anyway, so now the exhaust is done, and well, I do have to drill and put two or three. I have to put 3 O2 bungs because this is on the E38 ECU, so we'll be running both. I'm going to put both O2s in the downpipe, and then we'll configure it to only read off of one, like we do in the Gen 3 ECUs, if you can do that in the Gen 4. And then the reason we do that, or I was told to do that, was because sometimes if you leave the other one out of the loop or out of the system, it won't function properly. So you need to at least have it in the system so it can heat up and the computer can see it's there and stuff. But if you change the 0s and 1s to where it's on whichever bank you want it to be on, then it'll make global changes to your air-fuel ratio based on one wideband O2. And I've seen a lot of different schools of thought on this, where people have taken and wired the two banks together, bank 1 and bank 2 O2s, and then run one sensor. And anyway, this is the way I do it. So that's that. We got the radiator in here. This is the one from my LTD. I'm still working on finalizing getting it fitted. My lower hose is on. and I had to get the Summit swivel. Let's see if you can see it. The swivel thermostat housing, and it's kind of tight right here. So I'm just in there trying to get everything fitted. I'm going to clock this 90 degrees, so this is more cleaner. So this will be coming out here and go over there. Clean that up. I was trying them for a belt length, and this one obviously is a little too long, so I should have a belt for it today. I've got my forward power steering pump on here, so this is a bracket that I had made years ago because number one, the GM pumps for like the F-body accessories cost money, and the pressures are different, so you had to run a PRV and stuff like that. So I was like, well, I already have a pump that came off the car, so I just made a bracket to hold the pump, and then all the connections and everything are the same, and then the pressure's right. So I don't know, it's just, and then at the time nobody made anything like this, but I think nowadays there's a company that makes a bracket that allows you to use the forward power steering pump on an LS. So once I had it all mocked up, I measured these spacers here and made a little sketch on a piece of cardboard and sent it to my machinist buddy, and he machined 3 of these spacers out so I could have the right spacing for F-body. I put the coil packs down low. I don't know if I mentioned that in the last video, but made a little bracket and then cut the bracket from this configuration and turned them 90 and welded them to a plate, and then was actually able to secure them onto the bottom bar of the K-member. And then I used LT1 plug wires that have a 90-degree boot on the spark plug side, and then they have the straight boot that plugs into the LS coils. So I was able to remove the coil pack plug from here, pull it out of the harness back to here, and then run under the throttle body and go down. And it was actually long enough to connect in, so all that's plugged in and ready to go. I had the wire from the O2 going down over here, but it was too close, so I rerouted it to go on this side of the transmission, so then it'll plug in and then the wires will be away from our exhaust. This, I ordered a 4-inch to 3-inch 90 because obviously there's not enough space here to make that turn. These are just hoses that I had in my box of radiator hoses that I keep. This is actually a Ford radiator hose, so once I get the 90 in, it should be here today, and I'll get that, and then we'll go down here, get our, with E38 you want to run the mass airflow. Again, that's what I was told, and that's what seems to work best. It idles and runs better with the mass airflow sensor in the system, and I think the way we did it last time is we ran it on the lower settings and then failed it to go to speed density once the mass airflow got close to running out of resolution. And that seemed to work the best. I got the fuel rails flipped around and then put my regulator back there. I know it's not NHRA legal or whatever because it's on the firewall, but this is a street car and I don't care. I really couldn't, I spent way too much time trying to figure out where I could put it and everything, and that just laid out and worked right there. I don't like the loop in it, but I ran out of 90s and I don't like using 90s. I like to use as few 90s as I can, just from a flow perspective. So I think we're pretty much getting close to being done under here. Once we get our belt on, the steam vents in, and then this is a little coupling number one, to make the hoses work out, but it also gives me a fitting right there to hook up my steam vent, so that's what that's for. And I think I got to block off the rear steam ports, but and I got to get my intercooler. I got an intercooler from Summit, but it was very tiny, so I got to take it back and get a bigger one. The only reason I didn't go with the bigger one is because it was 4-inch thick, and I don't know, I don't want to have to cut the grill or anything, so I don't know. I'm still kind of, that's an unknown. So we got the fuel lines done. I think it laid out pretty good. What I did is I came out of the, you really gotta turn these hard to open. So came out with our dash 8, and then I did our 2 bulkheads here, and then went down under the car with 45-degree angles, and then went on this side of the drive shaft and put hangers and everything to hold it up. So the reason I have this fitting pointed that way is because initially I was going to run them on this side, but then with all the exhaust being over here, I wanted to separate everything. I didn't want it near the heat, so that's why I did that. So otherwise I would have pointed this one over there and then had both of them go and look better than it does. And yes, I could have loosened it and turned it, but I was lazy, so I'm sorry about that. I got to get the rollover valve on, so I'm assuming that this needs to go in this, so it's open when the car's not on its lid, and then when it goes on its lid, it closes off so fuel doesn't come out. So I was going to utilize this hole where the electrical pass-through went for the this connector right here for your fuel sender. So the hole's a little big, so I have to close it down, but that was the plan, and then run the dash 10 over and vent it. And then I got to build a block off plate for where the neck used to go, and I got some seam sealer from Summit as well, so I'll tidy up these gaps in here and where I fouled up cutting the sheet metal, and get that done, get the sending unit wired in, and then again I'm going to use my defroster wire as my fuel pump feed, because who cares about defrost, and that's a nice gauge wire. So I'm going to unloom it and pull it back and around, and then mount this over here, and then run my power to there and have that distribution. The next thing is putting the heater box in and vacuuming all this dust and debris that it's filthy in here from all the grinding and cutting and all the work going on. So the next big thing again is the pedal, and Jess had recommended, I think it was what was that little, like a Malibu or Monte Carlo SS or something that had the little V8 front wheel drive in it. I think that pedal has a better layout than the truck pedals and is compatible with this ECU and everything. So I'm gonna go research that because I need to get the pedal figured out before I can put the pedal box in and everything in here. I just want that figured out before I get further. But you know, again, I was trying to finish up everything under the hood, and the exhaust kind of escalated quickly. So overall it went pretty smoothly on the exhaust, but the again, once I tried to do the slip fit over here and then tried to fit it back in with that extended piece welded onto it that I didn't have when I was taking it apart, it just didn't want to go. So I had to massage a few things to get it to pass through, and then put it on the lift as high as I could, and then was able to twist it and contort it around, and got that squared away. So now it's on, it's done, again, other than the O2s. So that's that. And then I gotta wire the fan and get a top post battery. It's funny how GM finally went into top post batteries in the new body style trucks. But anyway, it's coming together. We're getting there. We're making progress. Again, just a little along. I've had a lot of other issues and stuff going on in the background. It's one big reason this thing's not done, but that's neither here nor there. This thing, I don't know if I finished up talking about it last time or not, but I got everything done on it. Plated the frame, bigger fuel pump. We did the tensioner for the blower belt. We got the battery to stop killing itself from the radio being on, so now you don't have to unhook the battery every time. And we're supposed to take it to Michael's today to try to get it dialed in, or let him finish dialing it in and everything. So hopefully, I'm gonna I want to talk to him and see if I'm thinking we can drive this thing down there, but I'd like to drive it down there and drive my 62, which I drove my 62 yesterday, and it did pretty good. Again, with everything going on in the background, I really haven't had a chance to drive it or let Michael retune it and everything. And I keep bringing home more cars to build. So there's that. But another thing we did was the brakes on this thing. We got rid of the ABS thing and put this. It's a nice kit that comes with everything you need and nothing you don't, and you just have to cut and modify everything to make it fit, just like every other kit. So after cutting all the lines and redoing the fittings and double flaring them and everything, finally got it on there, and so now we don't have any of that big ABS module and all, so I can clean this up and make this look a little more presentable. But anyway, I don't know if Michael ever got his dyno fixed, but probably just clean it up on the street tune and everything, and then go from there. But just want to give an update on this thing, and I'm really excited. I'm happy how the exhaust turned out and all, and happy to finally see it slowly coming together. So it's always good to see progress. If you're not making progress, it can get frustrating. So anyway, that's the update on these two for now.